Nope.
I was translating it, I felt it very, very kind of vividly. But it's clear that this is often Caligula's as well. So there was one particular account which I absolutely loved because it actually reminded me of the malevolent dwarf Quilp in Charles Dickens's Old Curiosity Shop. And it's Suetonius' description of Caligula standing in front of a mirror. Though he had a naturally off-putting and hideous face, he worked diligently in front of a mirror to make it even more so, contorting it into all kinds of fearsome expressions.
Yeah, that's what I do.
People who've watched the YouTube will be able to see. So I guess the question is, pretty much as it was where we were talking about Tiberius yesterday, is, what is going on? How do we explain all the horrors and the depravities and these kind of grotesque anecdotes that sometimes shade into the kind of the blackest kind of comedy? Did they actually happen?
Yeah.
If they did, what's the explanation? Was Caligula mad? Was he a sadist? Or is it a bit like we decided, I think, that that Tiberius was? Has he been the victim of fake news?
Right, exactly. And we are, for Caligula, unusually dependent on one source, aren't we? Because we have Tacitus for Tiberius, but we don't have Tacitus for Caligula. There are fragmentary sources or smaller sources like Seneca or Josephus for Caligula, but Suetonius is the only full one. And it's from Suetonius's biography. I mean, it is actually in many ways one of the great biographies in all literature.
I think it really is, yes.
It is from Suetonius's biography of Caligula, really, arguably even more so than his biography of Nero, that we get the sort of stereotypical image of the demented Roman emperor who has been driven into total depravity by absolute power. I mean, that's what this is, isn't it? It's a model of absolute power corrupting.
Yeah, and I guess that's why Suetonius' portrait of Caligula has been so influential, because it absolutely, that idea that absolute power corrupts absolutely, Caligula seems to be the model illustration of that. So since Suetonius is so important to our understanding of Caligula, and it's played such an important role in propagating the image of him as the kind of ultimate mad, bad emperor, I think it's important to trace in some detail exactly what it is that Suetonius has to say about his life and reign. And one thing that will strike anyone who reads it immediately is how incredibly important in Suetonius's account of Caligula the emphasis on his bloodline is, on his pedigree, on his ancestry. And the reason for that, of course, most obviously, is that he comes to power. He becomes emperor, he becomes princeps, the first man in virtue of his descent from Augustus, who is not just the first emperor, but by this point is a god. And Caligula is descended from Augustus very much through the female line. So his grandmother is Julia, who was Augustus's only child, and herself got destroyed in a sex scandal. And his mother is Agrippina, who was Augustus's last surviving grandchild, who we heard about in the previous episode, falls out with Tiberius. Tiberius imprisons her on an island. She goes on hunger strike and dies of starvation. But it's not just the female descent, it's not just the descent from his mother's line that amplifies Caligula's status as the best bred man in Rome. There's also his father. And this is a guy who is so dashing, so heroic, that throughout his life and in the decades that follow, he is commemorated as the absolute darling of the Roman people. And this is a guy who rejoices in the name of Germanicus.
Right.
And Suetonius tells us that when Tiberius dies, there is this great kind of upsurge of public, almost ecstasy. And it's not Suetonius.
Brilliant scholar, all of this kind of stuff.
So he writes about Germanicus in the way that you, if you had a fake Reddit account, would write about yourself on the rest is history Reddit account.
I actually don't, just to be clear. I don't have a fake Reddit account.
No, of course you don't. But just suppose. So this is what Suetonius has to say about Germanicus, who, as you say, he thinks is absolutely brilliant. It is the broad consensus that no one has ever combined all the blessings of body and spirit to the degree that Germanicus did. Conspicuous equally for his good looks and his courage, he was brilliant both as an orator and as a scholar, in Greek as in Latin, celebrated for his generosity of spirit, and remarkably successful in his endeavours to secure people's devotion and inspire their affection.
Okay, I would write that of myself. I'll tell you, I think Theo, our producer, has a fake Reddit account, and I think he goes on to a Reddit and just slags us off. And he would probably say this next thing, because Suetonius says of Germanicus that he has very spindly legs.
That's his only drawback.
Right. That's the kind of thing Theo might say of us.